And I especially wanted to thank Zhao Yongchen Boshi. I'd like to thank the Consul General, and I'd like to congratulate 我要祝贺这个中国这个去年的那个成绩 I'd like to congratulate China especially on the accomplishments of last year. And 我个人来说啊，我对那个丝绸之路这个经济带，我特别感兴趣，我觉得是特别重要的。From my personal point of view, the Silk Road economic belt which he mentioned is particularly important, and I'm very interested in it. I think it has a great potential for improving relationships throughout Central Asia and the world, and with Europe. I'd like to talk a little bit about the yang yen, the yang yen that was mentioned, the year of the goat, because that word yang can mean several. It has carried several meanings. It continues to carry several meanings. I have received have received New Year cards wishing me a happy year of the ram. Okay, yang yen, yang can be a ram. I've also received New Year cards. I'm sorry, New Year cards wishing me a happy year of the sheep, because yang can also be sheep. Now there are various. Of course, they're all right. They're all correct. In these days, nowadays of feminism, perhaps we shouldn't necessarily use the year of the ram, although it's perfectly correct, of course, because the ram is the male. And when we talk about the last year, the last year, we didn't say the year of the stallion. We said the year of the horse. So we can say the year of the But in fact, in Chinese culture, those animals in the zodiac do refer mainly to the male rather than the female. But they can be general, it can be either. There are some interesting phenomena about this which I think I don't really have time, and it's probably not interesting to develop. But I would like to say that in Australia, we have lots of sheep and not so many goats. In China, in Inner Mongolia and in Xinjiang, there are many sheep, but not so many sheep in the rest of China. Not so many in the rest of China. And there are cultural various reasons for that, but of course they're both perfectly correct. And this goes back a long way in terms of the language and the culture. Now, I want to raise the question of the year of the sheep, not because I want to disagree with the translation, the year of the goat, which I certainly don't disagree with, but because in Australia we have lots of sheep, and in the recent free trade agreement, which was mentioned by Tim Nichols, I think you raised that question of the free trade agreement. Mr. Abbott, the Prime Minister of Australia, mentioned that he mentioned the sale of sheep meat to China, because you know that our trade is changing slightly in texture, and China's our number one trading partner, as it's been mentioned by several speakers, and it remains that, and I think it's going to remain that for a long time, and that's very important. But the minerals may reduce in scope. They may reduce. We'll have to wait and see. But the food will go up instead. So remain our chief trading partner. And the sheep is extremely important in this, not only because of you can eat sheep, but it also produces wool, as everyone knows. And wool is also an important export commodity to China, and I think that's going to go on to be the case. So I want to congratulate everybody, and especially China and Australian governments, on developing the relationships between the two countries, which I think is extremely important. I may like to say, I don't know why I was asked to make a speech But because I don't represent anybody really, but I would like to represent Griffith University, but in the presence of Professor O'Connor, I would certainly not dare and would not presume to do such a thing. I think I may have been mentioned, maybe because I've been to China now 51 years. I first went to China in 1964, and I've seen a lot of changes in Australia-China relationships, and in China, and of course also in Australia. I've seen many, many changes, and I feel a great pride in the growth of Australia-China relations. And when he was here, President Xi Jinping, he gave a speech in the Australian Parliament on the 17th of November, and he was kind enough to mention my contribution to that. So I'm very, very proud indeed of his having mentioned my contribution to Australia-China relations. And I want to thank him for that mention, and also to thank Dr. Zhao and the Consulate for inviting me to talk. But I would like especially to say that I am really happy about the development of Australia-China relations. And if President Xi thinks I've made a contribution, that's very, very good. But I would like to go and make more contributions. For as long as I live. I don't know how long that will be, but let's wait and see. Nobody knows about the future of that sort of thing, of course. So finally, can I say that I like the idea of the Year of the Sheep as well as the Year of the Goat because of its representation about Australia and Australia-China relations in particular. I mean, I'm not saying that the goat doesn't, of course, but I think there is something special about the sheep in Australia. I think everyone would agree with that. And I would like to wish everybody a happy year of the sheep, or lamb, whichever you prefer. And I would like to say how happy I am to be associated with China, to be associated with this occasion. And thank you very much, and Happy New Year to everybody.
Thank you very much, Professor.